Since Christmas, I've covered nearly 1,200 kilometers on foot. I've run a half marathon PB in 1 hour and 25 minutes. I ran a marathon PB in 3 hours and 10 minutes. And I ran my first backyard ultra doing 7 yards, or roughly 47 kilometers, I think. Because in a few days' time, I have my big event, which is the Comrades Ultra in South Africa, where I'll be running double that distance. And honestly, I don't know if I'll finish it. Months ago that I signed up to do the Comrades Ultramarathon, and that was because they opened the ballots back up. I thought I'd miss my opportunity to join a great bunch of lads going out to do it. From Durban all the way up to Pietermaritzburg. A 12-hour cut-off, 5 named hills, but that doesn't mean there's only 5 hills. And the biggest one that I know of is Polly Shorts, and I believe it's right at the back of the race, around 8 kilometers in length, when you're already absolutely destroyed. And I believe there's something like 25,000 runners, maybe more, I'm not entirely sure. And no doubt many of them will be better prepared than me. Because the honest problem with preparing for something like this, in the UK at least, is that, well, there's nothing like it here. Sure, we've got some pretty tough hills and we've got some long stretches, but nothing at all that's close to what I'll be experiencing there. And so ultimately, I've only been able to test myself against things that are like it, but not the thing itself. And so that's what the last few months have been, really, a series of tests, all whilst trying to navigate lots of other races and life commitments. Because after all, life is messy, right? It's just the way it is. And it's important for me to contextualise this before we go further, because ultimately for me, that is a bit of a life philosophy, that aiming for perfection is utterly pointless. It's just something we imagine to be something that we want and need. Ultimately, it's about trying to reach optimal. But optimal is context dependent. If you are purely after performance, then everything you do should be driving towards improving your performance. If, however, like me, for example, with Comrades, your aim is to perform, yes, but also to enjoy it, to survive it, to make memories, then actually, it's not all about performing. That's the framing here. And that's the framing really, because then every decision I've made has been about trying to put that first, the long-term goal, and I wanted to enjoy other parts of life along the way. So coming to the marathon, half marathon weekend, it had already been a very, very big block. I'd come off the back of running Manchester Marathon, and the goal at that point was all about getting the best time I could. Not necessarily for Manchester, actually. I planned to do Edinburgh, but of course, as life is messy, things changed. And so it was about trying to convert a lot of that fitness, which was especially geared towards threshold pace, towards getting better at slower paces and up hills. And this week in particular, the volume was set at around 110 to 120 kilometers, my biggest one ever. The point of that weekend wasn't really about running a marathon. Ultimately, I could have chosen any distance. It's just that, well, I like the marathon distance. It's nice to think I've ticked that off. More so, it was about, yes, getting the pacing right, enjoying the hills and getting used to those, getting used to walking too. The main goal was the Sunday, doing the half marathon. Because the half marathon wasn't really a half marathon. It was hour 5 of a long run, broken up by a bit of sleep and a bit of rest. And I was so surprised by how fresh I felt, how good my body felt, and how well I moved. In fact, that half marathon was one of the fastest I've ever done. And all while staying in zone 2, zone 3. It was a real good confidence booster. What that weekend told me was that my body and my brain can keep going even when it's deprived of the rest, even when the muscles are damaged and the glycogen levels probably aren't where they should be or where they could be. But what it also told me is this: my brain will absolutely lie to me if I let it. Or rather, my mind will. Because both during the marathon and during the half marathon, there were plenty of times where I started to pick up the pace because I felt good. Thing is, for Comrades, that could end the race. If you push hour 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever the case may be, there's a good chance by the time you get to hour 6, there's nothing left. The other thing it told me was that fueling is going to be difficult, especially because taking in enough for my needs in the UK, where it's not actually that hot. It was hot that weekend, but it's not as hot as South Africa. That was difficult. So increasing my needs, especially with liquids and salt, might be a bit tricky. Then test 2, the backyard ultra with DNF, do not fail. Now, for anyone who hasn't done one, this is where every hour, on the hour, you run roughly 4.1 miles, which works out about 6.7k. And you do that until you can't anymore. There's no distance and there's only one winner. Everyone else technically did not finish. And I'd signed up for this during a half marathon PB attempt actually with a good friend who is a phenomenal runner. I'd like to say he taught me into it, but it didn't really take a lot. And whilst at the time the plan was to do the Backyard Ultra and really send it, the pair of us both had other races. So, sensibly, we controlled our effort. Although I didn't quite stick to the plan as well as he did. Now I made it to 7 laps and I stopped there. I was still feeling really good, still really wanted to carry on, but it was already getting past the point of actual returns, fees, damage. It was about being sensible. Now, what the Backyard Ultra taught me, which I didn't get from the weekend before, is what happens to your head and to your mind when you have to do the same thing over and over and over again. You have to keep making the same decisions over and over and over again. Keep going or stop. Keep going, stop. Take the fuel, don't take it. Take the fuel, don't. And this was especially hard for me because I don't know if anyone else can relate to this, but I absolutely hate doing the same route over and over again. I will actively extend my run if I have to in order to do a circle rather than an out and back because I don't like going the same route. I can't tell you why. And what was surprising actually was that my mind was the worst right at the start. It actually got better as we went on. But right at the start when I realised, actually, I'm going to have to do 2 loops of this lap continuously for the next 5, 6, 7 hours, whatever the case may be. And it started to bark like a mule. But as always, it's a little bit like a toddler that's screaming and crying. If you just ignore it, don't play into it, then your mind starts to quiet after a while. There's lots of tricks that you can play. And Matt, the chap who I ran with, my friend, has given me plenty of advice for that because he's done a lot of long runs. And I suppose the thing to take here is when I get to Comrades, can I keep choosing, keep going? Can I keep choosing, follow the plan when my mind starts to wander? And that'll be the thing that decides it. I'm now in the taper week. I did my last long run actually on Sunday. It ended up being much hillier than I'd planned it to be. But thankfully, everything is looking rather well. I'm getting the usual signs that I expect in a taper week now. My mind is usually doing the same things that it normally does. And it's looking for ways to try and increase how much work I'm doing, even though I know, objectively, all it will do is take away from the actual day. It's a different kind of challenge. But as I say, every additional session at this point, really, apart from a few shakeouts, that kind of thing, more for the mind and the neuromuscular adaptation, every session really is probably got a negative predictive value. And so I'm telling myself the goal is not to try and get fitter because I can't. The goal is to arrive more recovered. The next 2 weeks, so the next few days, really is all just about trying to rest as best I can, the best kind of nutrition, trying to keep stress low, sleep as best I can and recover as best as I can. Sounds simple, right? But of course, the other thing is I'm trying to balance this whilst also keeping lots of skills and fitness for my triathlon, which is my A race later in the year, where I'll be doing Ironman Wales again, because I've got a bone to pick with that guy. Weymouth shortly afterwards. It's a tricky balance. And the question I ask myself, am I ready? Honestly, I don't know. Can anyone really be ready for something as immense as this, especially on their first time? And I don't know. But what I do know is that I've done everything that I can. I've done my absolute best. I've tested myself against things that are like it. I've put myself up against challenges that will teach me about fatigue, about dealing with my own mind and the tricks that it tries to play on us. None of them have told me what 7 hours running Comrades feels like, what poly shorts will feel like. It's one of the things that I believe in life. You can only do your very best in each moment, in the context of that moment, with the things that you have at hand. Now, in the moment, if you know that you haven't done your best, then there you go. You didn't do your best. Next time, try harder. But if you can genuinely say that for the majority of a period of time, you've done your absolute best with what you have, then I think you can hold your head up high and take pride in that and enjoy the journey. And I think that's what matters to me the most, is that whatever happens, I have done my best. I've enjoyed this so much. I cannot tell you how much this sport has changed my life and how much happiness I derive from it and how much it's changed me as a person. But fast to say, I will be finding out whether or not I can do it on the 14th. If you've run an ultra before, especially Comrades, and there's something you wish you would have known before you did it, then drop it in the comments below. And I'll be seeing you in the next video. See you on the other side.